Last year in Alberta, we had 272 overdose deaths involving fentanyl, and now a street drug called W18 is here, and it is 100 times stronger than fentanyl. A lot of parents, including myself, nervous about this.
Myself,
yeah,
yes.
Talking with kids is tough. Talking with kids in a meaningful way about drugs is tough, and that's where Leah Sarich comes in, our health specialist, with advice on how to actually have this conversation and to make it effective.
And make it effective,
Yeah.
absolutely. You and I have been talking about this. We're all just terrified, as many parents are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I really wanted to find out how the best way to talk to your kids in a meaningful way that's going to have an impact, because that's what we want to do, of course. So I spoke to the head of the Department of Psychology at the UC, who actually specializes in addiction. So he is the guy for this. And he says it's actually not one conversation. It is a series of conversations that have been happening for a long time, and it's about an open line of communication between the parent and the child that's been established long ago. So you just want to keep that line of communication open. And then he says you really want to start these conversations specifically about drugs as early as possible. That's developmentally appropriate, of course, right?
Sure, sure.
And he says, you know, now is a really good time because there are so many opportunities to springboard. There's all the TV news stories about fentanyl, for example, and W18, characters in TV shows. Use these things as a teachable moment, he says, as a springboard for a conversation. And then he says what you want to do is have an idea about what you want to talk about, but you also want to get an idea of where your child's at, and you really need to be prepared to listen with no judgment.
The issue is listening, and also, though, having a bit of a plan in your mind, sort of what is it that you want to communicate to the child? I mean, you're trying to explore what's going on with the child, and sort of good parenting involves knowing what kids are up to and who their friends are and what their involvements are, of course. But even more than that, you're exploring to see what their opportunities might be. And, you know, part of that would be sort of educating yourself about kind of what's out there.
Listening without judgment is tough.
That's tough. Yes,
Yeah.
it is tough. And then, like you said, so knowing what's out there. So in this case, fentanyl, W18, knowing that these drugs are out there so you can have a meaningful conversation with your child about them specifically. Professor Hodgins also explains a drug use for kids is about opportunities that they have to these drugs. So he says those kids need to be armed with language to get out of that opportunity in a safe way.
Because of the peer pressure, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How to manage their emotions, how to manage the peer pressure, things like that. Also, it's important to understand why kids choose not to do drugs. So he says one of the main reasons is, there are many, but one of the main reasons kids choose not to do drugs is because it doesn't fit with their goals or what they want to do with their life. And it's really important for parents to point that out to their kids.
Kids are motivated not to for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that they understand that it's not compatible with some of the other things they want to do with their lives or what they're even doing currently. So it's not compatible with their activities, for example, or their goals. And so that's the other suggestion for parents is in these conversations is, well, first of all, listen a lot. You know, plan to listen more than you talk, but listen in a way that you can help your child see that drug use may be incompatible or interfere with some of their personal goals.
Right, so it doesn't fit with what they want to achieve in their life.
The kid's a hockey player or a dancer
this isn't
or
gonna
whatever,
work.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And parents really shouldn't be trying to scare their kids. Because what happens is that generally backfires. Because when you're overly dramatic like that, then kids disengage and they realize, well, that's not going to happen to me. Those people are different. That's too crazy. That's not happening to me. And then they're not listening anymore. So don't be scaring them. That's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is to know some facts. Be prepared and be realistic. We don't know that much about fentanyl and W18 because they're so new right now, but if we just look at marijuana, for example, actual statistics show that 75% of kids choose not to use it.
Three-quarters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually maybe not as scary as it needs to be.
Okay, you kind of touched on this, but I want to get some numbers from you. What is a good age? I mean, it's developmentally specific, but what is a good age to kind of start having these first of many conversations?
Absolutely. So Professor Hodgins says children as young as 11, 12, and 13, if you can imagine, are having that opportunity to access drugs. Though he does say the average age of initiation is about 15. But clearly, earlier the better.
Earlier the better, yeah. And what if your kid comes to you and has has that conversation with you and says, you know what, I have tried it.
Yeah, okay, well now this
Yeah.
is a different situation.
Yeah.
If you actually already know your kids have tried it and you're actually concerned, then parents need to not be relaxed anymore, and they need
Okay.
to be pretty specific about getting their kids some drug counseling, because the child's not going to come to a parent and say, I would like some drug counseling.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No,
so
of
that's when a
course not.
parent needs to step in and make that happen
And make
for
a
them.
decision.
And he said really once the conversation starts, generally most parents are actually going to be reassured
Okay.
that their kids are okay.
All this information
On my
will be
blog.
on Leah's blog.
You
Yeah,
bet.
breakfasttelevision.ca is where you can find it. Andy, you have 2 girls yourself, man. Very serious topic.
It is scary stuff, and all parents need to listen.